If you're looking at the Huawei P30 Lite, then I would imagine that one of the biggest pulls for you was the camera experience. Huawei have become synonymous with providing some exceptional camera capabilities. So, does the P30 Lite live up to expectations? Now, the P30 Lite will be shipping from Clove on the 10th of May for £329.99 including VAT, so head on over to our website to check that one out. So without further ado, let's take this out and about to have a real good look at what it can do. So that triple lens rear setup consists of a whopping 48 megapixel main sensor. Don't forget that this device is under £350, with an f1.8 aperture and PDAF, an 8 megapixel ultra wide angle lens with a 13mm equivalent focal length, and a 2 megapixel depth sensor with an f2.4 aperture. There's also a single LED flash on the rear. Now, it's important to note that some regions may get the P30 Lite with a 24 megapixel main sensor. However, the device we'll be using today sports that massive 48. So to begin with, standard shots taken with the P30 Lite, no filters applied or AI enabled, are actually pretty decent and very impressive considering the standing of this device. Whilst the P30 Lite doesn't have the 4 cameras of the P30 Pro, the main lens surprisingly offers a higher resolution than the P30 Pro. That said, it doesn't have the same software capabilities, and the lack of super zoom is a noticeable omission. Images shot in this way can be shot in that whopping 48 megapixel and produce an incredibly detailed photo. However, when you begin to use effects such as AI, images are shot in 12 megapixels. Huawei's AI tech is much loved, and the AI of the Huawei P30 Lite can actually recognise 22 different categories, including flowers, greenery, and everyone's favourite, food. From this, settings like colour, lighting and contrast are automatically adjusted to produce some very impressive images. Now, you may have noticed, but there is a slight difference in terms of saturation between these images and those standard shots that we saw before. But Huawei have actually toned this down with the P30 Lite, and I really like the results. Colour reproduction on the whole is very good, and the photos I took still look pretty natural. I don't know if you would agree. Now, the lack of a telephoto lens means that the Huawei P30 Lite doesn't come with the same zooming capabilities of its siblings. However, it can still capture images from distance, comparable to a 2x optical zoom lens. Hypersampling lossless zoom tech enhances a 48 megapixel Ultra HD lens to be turned into a super zoom lens, and the results are really good. Details are very crisp, as you can see here, and I can't fault this at all. One of the key features that I do love about the Huawei P30 Lite is its super wide angle lens. This is a feature that I make use of quite a lot personally, and with a 120-degree field of view, the lens is actually a little bit wider than the other two versions. On the whole, wide-angle images are very good. However, there is a slight bit of distortion around the edges of photos, as you might expect. I would say that images lose their crispness slightly, particularly when you move from the middle of the image, but generally I've been really impressed with the overall look. Whilst Huawei may have ditched a telephoto lens on the Huawei P30 Lite, they have kept the time of flight sensor, which is really great news if you're into portrait photography. This 2 megapixel lens is dedicated to better depth perception, and I have to say it's been very quick to kick in the time that I've had the device. Portrait mode works to blur out the background and isolate the subject in an image, and while this isn't accomplished with the same precision as the P30 Pro, the time of flight sensor still does a pretty good job. Now, it's worth noting that the portrait mode on the Huawei P30 Lite only actually applies a bokeh effect to people. And so if you want that blurred background on other things, then you will need to use Huawei's aperture mode. Alongside this, the Huawei P30 Lite benefits from a dedicated night mode, which works in the same way as other Huawei devices. AI stabilization keeps the camera still so that it can take multiple and long exposures of the same low light moment, combining them together to capture an impressive amount of detail. Now, as you can see here, final results are more than respectable. They're not quite at the same level as its siblings, but at this price point I haven't experienced many better low light offerings. If selfies are more your thing, then the Huawei P30 Lite comes with the same front setup as the P30 and P30 Pro, consisting of a 32 megapixel sensor with an f2.0 aperture. Onboard AI tech beautifies self-portraits based on your unique face shape and type, supposedly mapping the contours of your features and creating a custom algorithm to ensure that you always show your best side. Now, the processing is a little too much for some, however it's certainly an improvement over other mid-range Huawei devices. The AI can also recognise more than 8 different categories through the front camera, adjusting the background accordingly. You can also blur out backgrounds by enabling bokeh through the camera app, or add depth after the photo's been taken. When it comes to video, the P30 Lite can record in 1080p at 60 or 30 frames per second with electronic image stabilization, which is more than passable but doesn't compete with most flagships. Super Slow-Mo allows you to capture 16 times slow motion in 720p at either 120 or 480 frames per second. Now, these are probably the most common camera features that you're likely to use if purchasing the P30 Lite. Other notable features include time-lapse, which takes a photo every few seconds before animating them together to give a 720p video file, as well as light painting, which is a fun artistic feature that is best utilised in dark scenarios, and AR lens. Now, on the whole, I really don't think you're going to find a better smartphone photography experience at this price point than the Huawei P30 Lite. Images are crisp and full of detail, and colour reproduction is very, very good. AI tech is at the heart of Huawei's photography experience, and with the P30 Lite this is far more natural than I've seen on other devices. Now, the Huawei P30 Lite is available from Clove Technology for £329.99 including VAT, so make sure you head on over to our website to check that out. Subscribe to our channel for all of the latest news and reviews, and make sure you check out our social media pages for more. Thank you all for joining me, and I'll see you again soon.